Today we talk to Steve Pratt, director of CBC Radio 3, about user-generated content, the future of radio, and on-demand content.
When you have a big user-generated content community,
Yeah.
they hold your feet to the fire to deliver and to manage it well. So that idea of who owns it or not, I guess sometimes, ultimately it does matter who owns it. But in the grand scheme of things, if you don't treat your community properly and you don't make it valuable for them to put their content up with you, or your terms of service become ridiculous to the point that abuses it, you destroy everything that's valuable about it in the first place, because everybody can take their content down, even if the company has some weird agreement that they own it or whatever. But if you treat the community badly, they can take all their content and disappear with it, and you're instantly irrelevant.
Absolutely.
So for us, we've got a pretty sizable community of Canadian musicians on the website.
Yeah.
If we're not doing our best job to promote them, if we're not giving them a positive, image out there, and the music that they're giving us to help promote them isn't making a difference for them, and if we don't treat them with respect and honor them and champion them, why would they bother keeping their music up there with us?
Sure.
And if that disappears, like I said, our whole radio station, all of our podcasts are all programmed with that music.
Yeah.
So, one bad mistake or one silly thing, and poof, all of the value is gone. So we're very, very, very careful to always keep the music artists for our site. But I would say, whether it's YouTube or Flickr or any of those places, you have to keep your contributors as like a primary stakeholder, or one of the most important considerations is this good for the people who are putting content up on the site? Yeah.
Well, and I was going to ask you about the success of the blog, the Radio 3 blog, because that's something that you came in and you were like, let's start a blog. And I've noticed that to me, that's the one thing that I keep coming back to on Radio 3, and I really get a sense of there's some vibrancy there.
You know what, it's amazing, and I attribute it to a couple things. One is what I was saying before, the niche thing. If all we do is Canadian music and all we do is emerging indie music that doesn't get played anywhere else, it's a horrible shame. I'll say this: there's an enormous amount of music that is getting made in Canada that not enough people are hearing.
Sure.
And so when someone comes out and their whole job is to play just that, and it's amazing music. There's no question of quality of this stuff. When somebody comes out and does that as their full-time mission, if you find it and that's your thing, you're going to be a very passionate user of that. And we have a lot of people who are really passionate about it, and the blog is a way for them to have a voice in there. And a lot of the discussions on our blog are between different members of the community.
Yeah.
And they're all over the place. There's a ton of them in Canada. There's people, Canadian expats and people who just love indie music all over the world who are there talking about this area of relatively niche content that all of them share.
Yeah.
And there's nowhere else for that kind of dialogue to occur anywhere. And the other really big one, I think, is that we have real people from Radio 3 blogging on there, and particularly our on-air hosts, but I think some of our producers and the behind the scenes people,
sure,
who aren't really behind the scenes anymore. They're passionate people who live and work at Radio 3, and it creates a transparency about everyone who works here and what we all do.
Yeah, it's not just the marketing people that were given the keys to the blog.
No, they're real people,
yeah.
Right? And I think in a traditional media model, there's not a lot of opportunities to actually engage with people that you listen to, and either get to know them a little bit better, or provide feedback, or dialogue with other fans openly.
Sure.
Like in a traditional radio model, excuse the horrible reference, but like, I'm never going to be talking to Casey Kasem, and
is he still alive?
Yeah, I don't know. But I'm not going to be. There's no place for me to, while the show is on, to be going in and talking with other people who are listening to the show about what they think about it, or having. And a blog is one tool. We have a lot of discussion on Facebook and Twitter and a lot of different places out there.
Yeah.
But it actually makes it an interactive experience to listen. And
yeah.
I think one of the really cool things is that because you can listen to everything on the website, we have a streaming radio on the website. Each host, when they do their show every day, puts up a blog post about that particular show, and it stays up at the top of the blog while the show's on. And that's almost like it almost turns into a chat room during the show, where if you miss half the show, you can go in and read the comments and basically hear what's been going on and catch up.
Yeah.
And then join in and participate. Yeah, it's it becomes a real-time interactive way to listen to radio, which I think is pretty unique.
It is unique.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about the idea of niches being really important online. And now we're talking more about this idea of being more transparent, and the web basically either makes that easier or forces some companies to be a bit more transparent about what they do.
Yeah.
So I also want to get your sense on, like, are there other things? I think you're hinting at being closer to your audience and it's easier to be relevant to that audience if you have a closer connection to them. Right?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, if I think about myself, if I go to a website and read a story, and then I go to a different website and I leave a comment on that story, which one am I likely to go back to a second time for? Or if I upload a piece of content somewhere, how much more likely am I going to be to go and email that link to a whole bunch of other people and say, go check it out? Or if it's part of a traditional radio show or TV show or print thing, and that person who's, I guess curating it chooses my piece of content or my comment or whatever to actually include in the broader program.
Sure.
How much more loyalty am I going to have to that kind of program, or how much am I going to feel like I'm part of a community or a team? In a weird way, I'm going to have like a sense of ownership in the ones that I contribute to or participate in, versus the ones where I'm just passively consuming it.
Yeah.
It may be really valuable, but I'm not going to, I don't think my heart's going to be in it the same way as the ones where I've made a contribution and it's been recognized or well used by the rest of the community or any of that sort of thing.